what we were doing is we were building camera moves into the QuickTime movies, and that didn't seem to make sense either, because we thought it would be really interesting to be able to jump from one position to another within the movie, and you know, we were getting ahead of ourselves.
Yeah, very complex, and I don't know if you gain much, or you can. It may confuse the users too. So.
Yeah, it may confuse the users, and you know, there is the idea of what you think would be interesting, and then there's you actually see it in action, and there was many dead ends like that. You realize that the idea seemed good at the time, but when you actually try to put it into practice, well, maybe it's not such a good idea, you know.
Right.
So,
Let me put this to you. Like, one of the pages has a bunch of bottles and whatnot. The first time I play with it, the first thing I want to do is actually tap on those bottles, and when they shake them, and so they can make glass crinkling sounds. As like iPad apps, like sometimes we learn to do now, is use our fingers to do things. So have you guys thought about that, or is it in plans in the future version?
Of course. Yeah, that's a big. I don't want to say misgiving, because I think the app is quite magical, but
it is already
something we are doing R&D on that, and to have some to use a physics engine. There are a couple of applications out there that are using the physics engine, and they're using it
to your competitor in the future.
But you know, like I think it's a nice thing. You know, I hope we all are all pushing each other, because.
Let's get into that. Like, for example, the Alice in Wonderland application. I think one of the page has a clock, a watch on it. You tilt it, you can swing it. That's the kind of physics engine that you're talking about, right? If you shake it, or if you move it and whatnot, it will do different thing. Depends.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so we are looking at that, and just you know, there's something to keep in mind is we are pushing this iPad to the limit. You know, like if Steam could come out of the top of this thing, it would. Like it really is, we really are pushing it. But you know, as we investigate things like compression routines, right? Like we can, if we can reduce the file sizes by 10 or 15%, we'll have that much more room to play with, right? We'll have that. We'll be able to try different things out. One of the things that's happened that's quite interesting is the language issue has become more dominant than originally anticipated.
Spanish, or what do you mean?
Well, just multiple languages, right? Like unexpectedly, as of yesterday, Monday, whatever it was, August 2nd, for our iPad app was #1 in Russia.
Really? How come?
You wonder how come exactly? Why would that be the case? And we've been doing a little homework, and this story there's a well-known Russian variant of the story that we've done, and we think it may be something to do that. It may be familiar to that part of the world.
Like this story is a variant of a Russian story.
Well, we weren't aware of the Russian version, but yes, versions of this story all over the world. Our version of the story is based on, as I say, there are many variants, but there's originally, from what we can tell, looking on online and libraries, the original story is about 800 years old, and it's a poem, and it was written in Persia. But it's made its way all over Europe and the kind of northwestern Europe, but even up into Russia apparently. And interestingly enough, I only found out this today because I was with a friend who's a Spanish speaking. He's Venezuelan, and he remembers a version of the story in Spanish, and he knows it because it's translated from Russian.
Oh, really? Oh.
And we put 2 and 2 together and looked at the traffic that was looking at the homepage and looking at who were looking at the trailer, the promo, and then who were buying it. And it looked like there was a great surge of traffic in Russia over the weekend, and it went shooting up and went to #1. And we're thinking, well, maybe there's an opportunity here. Maybe we should be looking at, I was thinking the next language might be French. Some of us speak French, and it might be nice, but it might be nice to do it in one of the Chinese languages.
Yeah, I was thinking of the same thing. Cantonese or Mandarin. And
Mandarin, of course.
I talked to you offline about this because, hey, hey, China's a big population there.
Oh, sure, and that would be so fabulous, wouldn't it? Like, it would be really lovely to use have an exchange like that of stories, and same with the country of India, another large country that has a really growing middle class, and these are people who have money seemingly and are probably interested in purchasing, let's be honest, the iPad is a luxury device, right? Like at this stage anyway, it's a luxury device. So, but Russia, we never anticipated
Right.
The iPad isn't even available in Russia.
Really? Oh, so people go I guess, bought the iPads and went to Russia and then
Brought them back, presumably, yeah.
So I guess a follow-up note on that. So the the App Store actually gives you pretty good statistics, and you know where the traffic is coming from, and where in the world the app is being downloaded, bought.
Yeah. Yeah, so we can get daily records of those kinds of things. Now, it's only been out 1 week, so
yeah, right. Yeah, not too long ago, July 25th.
So there's not that much of a record, right? But no, it really is interesting to follow it, and it is yeah. I mean, it's early days. Like we think that. We think our project, the idea for our project, specifically the fact that we're going to do a series of books, a series of ebooks, I guess.
Right.
We think that once we have 2 or 3, or even 4 of these stories out, and people can rely on moving tales, as we're calling ourselves, for producing quality stories with some magic, with some humor, with some playfulness. That we think that it'll bring along all the stories. So we're not worried at this stage. We don't have a #1 hit in the US, right, which is the biggest market for iPads at the moment. But we're getting there. We're getting some press, and we're getting noticed. And we think over the course of the rest of the summer and into the fall, as we release our second and then our third story, we'll begin to get a sense of what kinds of things people are interested in, right? And we'll get a better idea of where we should target our next stories and what languages. So Russian may be one of them, but it may not make sense. It may be better to go with French, or indeed, like you say, with Cantonese or Mandarin, and explore that part of the world.
Right. For Pedlar Lady, or for the next book?
No, it would be we're thinking for Pedlar Lady.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Yeah, so, okay. So I understand you correctly. Yeah.
But the thing is, we could, like in the future, we might take we might partner with a Chinese storyteller, for example, or a Chinese animator. And maybe we take a Chinese story for a walk, that's the kind of phrase I'm using, is I'm saying we take it for a walk. So we're bringing it into the 21st century, both in terms of technology and in terms of animation, but also in terms of the language and what we're doing, the context in which we're setting it. So
and the story goes around the world anyway. I mean, nowadays there are movies that are Hong Kong movie that got translated into a Scorsese movie, and I guess vice versa for many years before. But I guess we are in one world now. So if I remember right, the development of the application and the artistic work and whatnot are all done over the world or in different places, right? Not just in Gibson.
That's right. I'm based in Gibson, and my partner Jacqueline Rogers, who is the writer, she's obviously here with me as well. And but the primary creative collaborators that I'm working with are based in Ireland. But just because I've been going back and forth there, and I have I've made my films partially or else completely in Ireland. and I'm Irish born myself, so that is my connection. But the people in Ireland aren't all Irish that I'm working with. So one of the main animators, Timu Arasalo, who animated the Pedlar lady herself, he's Finnish, and so we were working with him, and so there's people we're working with in South Africa. There's someone in London. There's someone in New Brunswick here, Vancouver, Toronto. Where else?
And Calgary too, right?
The translators in Mexico. The woman Silvana, who is the voice for the Spanish voice, she's Peruvian. So it's wonderful. Like we're working with people all over the world, and I think that's a really exciting thing about it is that we're able to tap into all these different people and their interests, and hopefully they'll bring some of themselves to it and make the project that much more exciting.
And developers from Calgary too, right?
The programmer is from Calgary, right? Where you are, yeah.
Yeah. So this is really cool. So going back now, according to your press material, right? Pedlar Lady is the first 3D animated storytelling app. So the 3D component, I guess I've seen it, and I'm going to link to the trailer for people to see it too. But describe a bit for people who haven't seen the application. Where's the 3D part? What makes your app different from the Alice in the Wonderland app and the Toy Story app, for example?
Yeah. Well, I should clarify the term 3D in this instance. I think with people, we're not selling glasses
not
with
glasses, 3D.
It's not stereoscopic 3D, right? We're not looking at a kind of a low-level avatar film experience. What we're talking about is 3D animation. That is, it's as opposed to traditional two-dimensional animation. Where it's flat, yeah. So planes looking on top, moving on top of planes. So you use the example of Alice, and it's a good example. It's a very good quality ebook. And you used the example of the clock. The clock is static. It's a flat image, and it moves flat on top of the surface of the underlying image. And it's true. It's tied into the dynamics of the accelerometer, the positioning of the device itself. And initially, you think it's really quite exciting. But we felt that there's another way to do that, another way to explore animation, and just from my background, most of us who are animating on this are 3D animators and 2D animators. So our animation is dimensional. So the figures in it and the positions are all dimensional. It's in perspective, and there's a sense of depth and.
So when the Pedlar Lady walked away, you see her going smaller, and one of the pages has a whole bunch of borders. You see them; they are not flat; they are actually
They move in relation to one another. Yeah, there's a bunch of bottles hanging from a tree, and they're all kind of moving and turning very slightly, and so you get this nice kind of parallax sense, and it's a different kind of experience, and from a 2D experience. And the other thing is that we've worked hard to come up with this. It's kind of like it's a toon shader is what it's called. It's like a cartoon shader, a toon shader. A toon shader. So we're rendering the material to look like a kind of graphic novel, as I would say. So we're not aspiring to photorealism in any way.
They're pre-rendered, right? They're not rendered on the fly.
That's right. They're pre-rendered. Yeah, they're pre-rendered. So that in that sense, it's different from a 2D animation, 2D and on-the-fly animation, which is done by a physics engine, which, like for example, Alice is doing.